everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you know what time of the week it is. It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday, my favourite time of the week, of course, and that's because it's time for my wrestlers of the week. Who's gonna grab a few cheeky points just before Royal Rumble weekend? There's only one way to find out. Let's get on with it. Now, before we begin, some honourable mentions. Now, to be fair, right, it's been a good week in terms of storylines across the wrestling world, I feel, but in terms of actual quality wrestling matches, it hasn't been the high level that we often expect week in and week out. So this episode is going to feature a bit more storyline talk and booking decisions and that sort of stuff, which is very interesting, but it means that we're not going to see so many workhorses packing the honourable mentions. I've only got two that I can really think of off the top of my head, and they are Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy, the new Raw Tag Team Champions, of course. And a dishonourable mention, or oh that's a shame lads, mention to Akam and Razor, the AOP, who really should be the tag team of that stable, but Rollins just, he loves that red belt, doesn't he? Loves it. Absolutely bloody loves it. But now onto the list, number 10 this week, picking up 1 point. Let's go over to CMLL's tour of New Japan, which I don't think has hit the headlines quite as much this year as it has in previous years, which is a little bit strange. It's almost like they haven't made quite as big a deal of it in the wake of Wrestle Kingdom. But number 10 goes to the man who won probably the best singles match of the entire tour, and that is none other than Mighty Boy, otherwise known as the original Mighty Boy in WWE, but boy was spelt with an I. Now it has to be Mighty Boy just with a Y. You know who it is, he's the original Mighty Boy. He had a match with Barbaro Cavernario and won it, and then cut a promo afterwards saying that CMLL was the best promotion in the world, which is a little bit cheeky, of course, saying that in a New Japan ring, when New Japan probably are the best promotion in the world today. But regardless, he had a good match against Barbaro Cavernario, good performance, and is continuing, I guess, to kind of extinguish the flames that were set by his original WWE run when he got replaced by another Mighty Boy, and it was all a bit sad, wasn't it? I don't know what else to say about this match really, other than it was quite good and the best singles match of the tour, but there were no matches that really stole the show in ways that we're maybe used to, especially after previous years. Number 9, let's go to NXT and that tag team tournament that is rumbling along, and let's talk about a man known to you and I as Jonathan Whippersnapper. Jonathan, I mean, what can you say about him? He loves a bit of joint manipulation, not like his tag team partner, who we'll get onto in a second, but they are through to the next round of that tournament, taking on the Grizzled Young Vets, Zach Gibson and James Drake. In fact, I should have given the Grizzled Young Vets an honourable mention, just because they are through as well, and they beat the Undisputed Era, but that was down to a distraction from Imperium, so it wasn't quite impressive. But Jonathan and his tag partner did actually pick up the more impressive tag team victory of the night. I wouldn't say the best match on NXT this week, we'll get to one other in a second, but it was still a very entertaining bout, with the babyfaces picking up the big victory at the end, and then cutting a menacing / hilarious promo on the Grizzled Young Vets at the end of the match. And it's quite a cool chance for UK indie fans like myself to see Jonathan Whippersnapper in tag team action after we've been so used to him being an excellent singles star, such as that mammoth UK Championship reign that he had when he was just having excellent singles matches left, right and centre. But it's good to see him once again in a tag team. He has been over the years in British Strong Style. Before that, he was in a tag team with Damien Dunn, his kayfabe brother. And yeah, he's just really solid no matter what sort of action comes his way, and I think that's a really valuable asset to have. 2 points to you, Jonathan Whippersnapper. Keep breaking those fingers, mate. Keep doing all that stuff. Great job. Number 8 this week, picking up 3 points, it's his tag team partner, and it's none other than the bro himself, Thomas Over There. His nickname and his surname are the same thing. When I say it was a terrifying / hilarious promo they cut at the end, that's because Thomas grabbed the mic and went, bro, as he often does. And I wasn't sure which guy to give the extra point to, because I thought it was a pretty equally impressive performance from both. But there was a period just towards the end of the match where this guy just started going crazy with knees. Did that thing that he does where he powerbombs them down and then goes way and rolls them through and knees them in the face. That's always lovely to see. He didn't pick up the pinfall itself, but it was a big double team move from the Bro Mission boys that picked up the victory for their team. I wonder if they're going to win the cup or not. It would probably, I think they're the favourites, but never look past the Grizzled Young Vets. They're sneaky and they know what they're doing. Number 7, let's cross the divide of the Wednesday Night Wars and go over to AEW in the Bahamas on that lovely cruise ship. And let's talk about a man who lost in the main event and squandered his chance to become the #1 contender to Chris Jericho's championship, but he still put in an impressive performance. It's that dirty bastard, Declan Smith. This was a really good main event, wasn't it? And even though it was quite obvious which of the two competitors was probably going to win the match and go on to face Chris Jericho, I still think they did a good job of swinging the momentum back and forth, as all of the best main event matches kind of do. I liked a lot of this match. I liked the intense exchanges. I liked the way that Declan went for the eye, the injured eye, of course, of his opponent, courtesy of Chris Jericho's spike attack the week before. I liked the bit where they brawled up to the top deck and then all the way back down. I liked the chance to the other bigger cruise ship that pulled alongside Jericho's cruise ship. That was very funny too. Jericho was great on commentary. The match was generally a very enjoyable one. One bit I particularly liked is when Smith got hit with the paradigm shift and then rolled out of the ring and just it prevented his opponent from making that pinfall attempt. But later on, he got caught with not just one paradigm shift, but that high angle one as well, and that was enough to put him away. But still, he picks up a few cheeky points on Wrestlers of the Week, and I think is still one of the top single stars in AEW. Next up, number 6, picking up 5 points. Let's go over to Stardom and talk about the ace of Stardom. Since a lot of talent has left Stardom over the past few years, such as Io Shirai, Kairi Hojo, who is now, of course, Kairi Sane, it just seems as though they had a bit of a vacuum, and this person has more than filled that vacuum. It's none other than Barbara the Bank Clerk. When she's not counting money and providing excellent, clear, concise customer service, she is pretty much the best worker in Stardom at the minute. Arguably, I suppose, but in my opinion, she is the best wrestler and had an excellent match defending her title successfully this week against Momo Watanabe. And with this result, Barbara has proved herself to already be one of the more consistent wrestlers on Wrestlers of the Week in 2020. She featured on the list, was it last week or the week before? Maybe it was even in the first week. She has featured on this list already once this year and has picked up another little hatful of points as well to carry her pretty near the top of the table. We'll see exactly where she's landed come the end of this video. And despite Momo Watanabe putting up a great fight, in fact I should have given her an honourable mention as well, it was Barbara the Bank Clerk who secured the victory, hitting the check please, of course, as she often does towards the end of her matches, and picking up a really valuable win, one which has further galvanised her title reign. I wonder what's in the future not only for Barbara but for Stardom as well going forwards in 2020. Of course, they featured as a dark match at the start of Wrestle Kingdom weekend, which was a big step for that promotion. I'd like to see them make further inroads. I understand that in Japan, you don't really get too many promotions putting on men's and women's matches at the same time, but I think if any promotion has the talent and the exposure to do so and to sort of break new ground, then Stardom's pretty much the place to look. Number 5, back to AEW now, back to Chris Jericho's cruise ship to talk about one of the new AEW Tag Team Champions. It's no, not that one, Michael Jackson. Jackson continues to be one of the best wrestlers in the world. We all love a bit of MJ, even though he's not taking part in those showcase singles matches that really propelled him to the top of world wrestling, I suppose, back in New Japan. He looked very good in this match against SCU, but again, took a bit more of a back seat to his partner, but it was still enough for them to win the belt. And we saw the first ever title change in AEW history, which I think is a big moment and probably the correct call as well. I don't want to throw any shade on SCU or anything. I enjoyed them as a choice for the first ever tag team champions. I thought it was just enough of a surprise, but just enough of a legitimate decision as well, because they're really good. They're a really good tag team. But I think, yeah, now was probably the time for them to drop those belts, and it helps, of course. It's not just a title change for title change's sake. It helps further the storyline. We'll talk about that storyline a little bit later on, but Jackson was excellent in his role in this story. He wasn't meaning to be obnoxious and cut off his partner in that interview with Tony Schiavone. It just seems like a series of little accidents and little mistakes, and all of the tension is going to bubble to the surface. And now that they are tag team champions, that adds, a further layer to proceedings. I can't wait to see where this storyline goes. I think it's been handled really well. I love the slow burn nature of it, and I just can't wait to see where it goes next. Number 4, let's go to the UK independent scene. Let's go to Progress, where they crowned a new champion. Unfortunately, Eddie Dennis injured himself, and I believe a set of NXT UK tapings, and therefore had to forfeit the Progress Championship, which is a tremendous shame because his reign never really got off the ground. But that meant Progress's recent show that has just gone up on demand, Chapter 101, Dalmatians is the name of it. They're hilarious lads, aren't they? That meant they held a little mini tournament and then a 4-way match to crown a new champion. That match featured Carl Fletcher, Paul Robinson, Ilya Dragunov, and this week's number 4, Dr. Noisy, Attorney at Law. Dr. Noisy, I can't work out, he's just an enigma, isn't he? I can't work out, is he a doctor, is he a lawyer, is he both? How much time has this man got on his hands? He is one of the true enigmas of British wrestling today, and also, until this week maybe, one of the most underrated in-ring talents. And it was a very good match, a great main event. I really enjoyed the elimination aspect of it. I thought that helped prolong it and make it feel more epic, and it just made it feel like Dr. Noisy had really earned something when he finally won that title and became the new Progress champion. And feasibly, it was a belt that all four men could have won, which again helped elevate his victory further. Realistically, I think you could probably see Kyle Fletcher winning it. He is, or has been, predominantly a tag team wrestler in the past, but his partner in Aussie Open, Mark Davis, has recently been injured. Ilya Dragunov, I think, could easily be Progress champion. He's one of the biggest stars in the UK scene and the European scene right now, and is of course on NXT UK. And also, Paul Robinson has been a very loyal servant of Progress over the years, and has teamed with Will Ospreay, for example, and has also taken part in his fair share of bloody death matches, both with and against the likes of Jimmy Havoc, who is now, of course, in AEW. So Robinson is very much a part of the fabric and the history of Progress, and he could feasibly have won too, but it was instead the newcomer, the new boy, the newest one, I think probably the least experienced wrestler of the four, Dr. Noisy, attorney at law, who picked up the biggest victory of his career. There's no doubting as well that he really deserves it. I saw him personally have an excellent match at North Wrestling a couple of months ago now, against Robbie X, and he's just something to behold live. His entrance is such a spectacle, totally like silent and mystical as he theatrically makes his way into the ring. And also in the ring, he can just go. He's got it all. He's got a great look. He's got a great gimmick. He's incredibly charismatic in a silent way. And he's a brilliant wrestler as well. A load of points for you, Dr. Noisy. Well done, mate. And I hope your reign's a good one. Attorney at law. Number 3, the new number 1 contender to Chris Jericho's AEW World Championship. It's, we all know and love him, it's the Cream Bandit. Yeah, the ICB, he really did well in this match, didn't he? I already talked about why it was a good match, because they brawled up to the top deck, they came back down, there was an exchange of missed finishers and stuff. No, the ICB hit his finisher, and then Declan missed the Black Arrow at a later stage. It was all a match that really helped build the tension throughout, and really did pick up down the stretch. There was also a nice storyline running through the match with the whole eye injury angle, of course, which I mentioned earlier again. And after the match too, Chris Jericho came out on the stage. He'd been on guest commentary, of course, and they enjoyed a lovely stare down, or the fans enjoyed it. Both men looked actually pretty intense. The question for me is Chris Jericho definitely going to lose this title match? Because it's hard to tell. I really did think that he would beat Cody, and we get that unthinkable stipulation that Cody can never ever again challenge for the AEW World Championship. I did think that would happen. If they really want to, they can always undo it at a later date, but I don't even know if Cody will want to do that. But also, is this time for Chris Jericho to finally drop that title? I would suggest yes, but you never know. I mean, he's been a fantastic champion. He's been on one of the many runs of his career so far. But is it time to move that on to the man who is the hottest babyface in the company right now, the Cream Bandit? Time will tell, of course, but it's one of those matches where it might even be a little cheeky win-win situation for AEW, because regardless of which result they book, there's positives to take from it either way. But I'd suggest that I'm leaning slightly more towards a title change. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Number 2, Tom Campbell would have been furious if I'd forgotten this man, but don't worry, it's Don't You Forget About David Lockett. David Lockett is, of course, the new NXT North American champion, defeating Roderick Strong in a really well-received match on Weekly NXT this week. And it wasn't like a spellbinding takeover level match, in my opinion, but the sheer strength of the storyline carried it through for me and helped elevate the quality of the match, and the incredible crowd response as well at Full Sail, of course. I mean, you had a clear heel who everyone wanted to see lose, you had a clear babyface who's been on just the run of his life since about Survivor Series. Yeah, since Survivor Series, of course, he survived a long time in that men's elimination match. And then you had the heel's friends trying to cheat to help him retain the title, and then you had the big babyface fighting them all off. It's just simple storytelling, and sometimes simple is the best way to go, especially with two men as charismatic as Roderick Strong and David Lockett. The question for me now is, why has this happened? You know, we saw him recently throw away a chance to win the NXT Championship. Now he's got the secondary title, the North American Championship. Where's this going to lead? Where's that going to feed into? Who's going to feud with him next? And also, what does this mean for the Undisputed Era? They have lost one of their titles. They had a stranglehold on all the gold in the men's division, and now they just don't. And I wonder if this is going to be the start of the unraveling of the Undisputed Era, or if they're going to bounce back from this even stronger. It's all really good. I love the way that in NXT, one storyline will bleed into the next, and they'll branch off and they'll affect different things. It feels more than I'd suggest on Raw and SmackDown. It feels like a very connected universe, and I love to see that. Triple H is just a genius. Well, he's cerebral, isn't he? He thinks more. So a great week for Big Dave. He is the new NXT North American champion, and I'd suggest that's probably one of the best booked belts in wrestling at the moment, or certainly one of the belts that's had a lot of excellent matches attached to it. Who will feud with him next? I'll throw some names out there. Obviously, Dominik Dijakovic has to be up there because of their excellent matches, both in NXT and on the independent scene prior to them signing with WWE. Who else? Roderick Strong could easily get a rematch. That would be really good. There's so many. Maybe the loser of Balor versus Gargano. I'd like to see that as well, although Gargano has already held that title. To be fair, NXT's roster is so stacked that there's multiple opponents that I'd love to see challenge David for that belt. But finally, number one, and my wrestler of the week, for taking part in a really entertaining match on the cruise ship in AEW, you're getting a few clues now, for taking part in a really entertaining match, for winning a title for himself, and also for just being superb in the promos and the character work surrounding the match as well. We all know and love him. It's Hangman Crunchy Biscuits. Crunchy Biscuits was amazing here. I mean, he won the match for his team. Once Michael Jackson had been absolutely taken out by SCU, Crunchy Biscuits dragged him into their own corner, tagged himself in, bang, buckshot lariat, 2 Scorpio Sky on the outside on the ramp, bang, 1 back inside to Frankie Kazarian, and then picked up the pinfall victory. And then, as I said earlier, that led to the first title change in AEW history for Crunchy Biscuits and Michael Jackson. And then the celebration afterwards with the Young Bucks coming out to celebrate, but obviously Crunchy Biscuits is no longer a member of the Elite. He just went into the crowd and crowd surfed his way with a drink in his hand and looked happy in an intense sort of way. And I think that really fed in well to the interview afterwards with Tony Schiavone, when he kept getting cut off by the Young Bucks, by Tony himself, by Michael Jackson at one point too, and then eventually just went to the Bucks. You know what? I'm surprised we won these things before you guys did, and then stormed off. I can't wait. I can't emphasize enough. I can't wait to see where this storyline goes. And so, with all said and done, Crunchy Biscuits has taken advantage of a week that I think was a little bit light in terms of sheer match quality, but was certainly a strong week in terms of booking and storytelling. But his storyline, in my opinion, is the best of the week, and it had a really fun match to go with it as well. So Crunchy Biscuits, congratulations, my friend. You are my wrestler of the week. Now, let's take a look at the league table. We see Aleister Black there holding on to the number 1 spot, and Barbara the Bank Clerk has risen up to 2nd, just ahead of this week's winner, Crunchy Biscuits. And below him, there is a 5-way tie for 4th place. Very exciting times early on in 2020. And a little bit further down, actually, you'll see on 7 points, it's the new Progress champion, Dr. Noisy, attorney at law. But of course, this could all change next week when we take into account both NXT Worlds Collide on Saturday, check out mine and Adam Paciini's live stream, and of course, everyone's favourite, the bloody Royal Rumble. See you then. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.